All right, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. I am pretty jacked up right now, and I have a I hate to say the word former, but a former Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl champion on the show tonight. And the reason why I'm starting there is because Dallas is my team, right? So I'm pretty excited about that. But this young man, two-sport star at University of Oregon, which I want to get into that because like who does that anymore, right? Got his bachelor's degree in sports marketing. Played 9 years in the NFL. And what's the average, I think? 2.5 or 3?
It's like less than two almost
Yeah,
now.
right. But for the Cleveland Browns, Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm going to ask him a question of who's his favorite quarterback because he's had so many good ones. Um, but he's the founder of Team X88 Inc., which is, I really want to get into that, what that's all about. And spent a long time as a professional motivational keynote speaker talking about resilience, discipline, transition, redefining success. Welcome to the show, JJ Birden.
Hey Jeff, thanks for the invite. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I am so happy to have you. And like I said before, if you see my windowsill over there, I got Cowboys helmets, pictures, all kinds of cool stuff on the wall. But thanks for coming on. I have a bunch of questions to ask you tonight, JJ. Before I do that, just do me a quick favor. Just let the audience know a little bit about you for those who might not recognize the name.
Absolutely. Let's see the quick story. I'm born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I got a scholarship to Oregon to run
Go
track.
Ducks, go Ducks.
Go Ducks, and played football as well. And was drafted by the Browns in 1988. Like you said, 9 years in the NFL. I've been married to my college sweetheart, Raina, for 35 years.
Good for
And
you.
thank you. We have three children, but we adopted my five nieces and nephew of my sister. So we raised eight children.
Oh my God.
And now we
God
live in
bless you.
Phoenix, Arizona. All the children are out of the house, and we are now grandparents. I have two grandsons.
And you're an empty nester?
Yes, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
We're loving it.
Yeah. Spontaneity comes back, after a while. You're like, hey, let's go out and do something. You don't
I
have to check
know
with
it sure
anybody.
does. It sure
But
does.
that's awesome. Well, listen, I got a lot of questions to ask you. And the one question that just keeps hitting me before I even look at all my other ones is you're a two-sport athlete, and that's even t today is unheard of. And probably even more unheard of back when you were there. What was it like to be at University of Oregon and playing two sports, and then going to school on top of that?
It was very challenging. I did not have much of a free life. It
Well,
was
well, just as a football
football.
guy, you have no free life.
Oh yeah, you don't, and you got to take all your classes in the morning so you can get to practice early in the meetings. And so my year was like it was football, football, football. Football season's over. Then it was track, 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 track. Then it was football, football.
Yeah,
So I really learned how to what do you call it? Master time management
yeah,
because you had to be on top of your game as an athlete, but also for academic, purposes too. So yeah, it was a great experience for me. It
yeah,
taught me a lot, and I was there 5 years, so I redshirted in both
yeah.
sports. So
Okay.
it turned out well though.
So who was your head football coach at the time?
My head coach was Rich Brooks.
How did he feel about you running track?
Well, the interesting thing is, I went there to run track,
All
and
right. So it was the other way around then.
yeah, so I went to Oregon on a track scholarship. I
Okay.
wasn't I wasn't recruited in football by any D1 schools.
That's crazy.
Even though I was the number one wide receiver in Oregon, I was all state, but I was 5'9", 133 pounds. So D1 schools just said, nope, you can't play at this level. And I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So
Yeah.
as I was being recruited in track, I had a lot of schools after me because I was a really good long jumper. Every coach, I said, what do you think about me playing football? And all of them said no, except for Oregon.
Okay.
Oregon said, hey, you come run for the Ducks. And if you can convince the head coach your second year, you got our blessing. So I just said, there's the opportunity. Now I got to create it.
Well, and for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but the Oregon track program is one of the best in the country, right?
Absolutely.
then and
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
And that's where they have all the national championships at Oregon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, that was kind of my dream was to stay in state and run for the Ducks. Cause like you said, it's a first class track program.
Yeah,
The bonus was if I could work my way onto the football field, then I got, hey, that's the icing
yeah.
on the cake.
But then you get to miss spring football, though. That was pretty good.
Yeah, what's interesting, Jeff, is like today, if there's an athlete on football doing track, they got to do spring ball.
Well, they do.
All they do, they football is the priority.
All
When I
right.
was running back in the day, I didn't have to do spring ball. Matter of fact, I did spring ball one season. It was the season I redshirted in track. So I only
Okay.
had to do it one time.
You're lucky.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think the guys today understand like how tough spring football was back then. They don't
Yeah,
understand how tough preseason, regular season football was back then compared to now. Now they're
yeah.
like on vacation.
I know. I can't believe camps today and how they have these rules about, contact can't be in
Yeah.
pads 2 days, two practices in a row. And
Yeah.
like you said, we were doing 4 weeks of full pads, doubles, and it was all
Yeah.
physical contact.
Oh yeah. Hey, I went to the University of Maine and
Uh,
we were doing triple sessions. We had the
oh yeah.
specialists in the middle. All the kick returners, punt returners were all in the middle. And we were full pads for 21 straight days,
Wow.
and we were killing each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'd do it again.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because that's unheard of today. Athletes
Yeah.
today probably couldn't comprehend practices and training
Yeah.
camps like that.
I just wonder if they could cut it.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what
a
I
good
mean? And
question.
I shouldn't say that because everyone's gonna get mad at me, but it's a different generation, different world.
Right.
So talk about, I always like to find out about like your recruiting process. Coming out of high school, you said top track guy in the state of Oregon. Like, what was it like being recruited? And I would imagine you're probably still pretty involved with the program now, the school, and getting in and being back and forth and being on campus. Because now it's all about what? It's all about money and who's getting
Yeah.
paid and NIL deals. What was it like for you coming out of high school, being recruited to run track? And then my other question was, what the hell was it like to show up and play football there with those monsters?
Yeah, my track recruiting, process was pretty interesting because I was a good long jumper. I long jumped 24.9 in high school, and I had the second best jump in the nation at that time. So I knew I was going to get a scholarship. It was just
Yeah.
choosing the right school. And it was so different back then. It was
Hmm.
recruiting wasn't as big as it is today. You
Well,
fly
there was
out to
no internet, no phones, there was
no,
no videos, there was nothing.
no, it was just you fly out there, you have dinner, you meet the coaches, you meet the team the next day, you see the facility, and you're kind of out of there. But for me, just trying to balance once I started playing football, because when I went to Oregon and I was about 153, 155, I wasn't a very big in size, but once again, I had the motivation. I was just really trying to prove the coaches wrong. I was
Yeah.
not trying to play in the NFL. I was not trying to have this college career that was impressive. I just wanted to show them that I could make it. And
Yeah.
that was really the motivation initially.
Right. Now you say you have three of your own children and five nieces and nephews that you adopted. How many of them are boys?
The four.
Four boys. Were
Yes.
they all football guys or track guys?
Nope. They weren't football
Nobody.
guys. I didn't push them. I
All
didn't
right.
push them because I know from being an athlete as you do, if it's not
Yeah.
in your heart,
You ain't doing
and
it.
and it wasn't. I think they saw dad hurt too much. I mean, they
Yeah.
saw me icing my knee and my
Yeah.
ribs, and no, they didn't go that route.
Will they watch any of your game films from the past?
Yes, oh yes. They watch them and they're like, "Dad, I can't believe you used to do that." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I can't believe I used to either." You know.
Well, I mean, in the days that you were playing, I mean, there's pictures of you on the internet of being covered by Deion Sanders. Like, how much better does that get? Right? You're,
Yeah.
you're playing, and I think I saw a couple with like Lester Hayes when you were younger, like, covering. Like, those are two of the best ever, right?
Yeah, well, Lester was before me, but
Okay.
Rod Woodson,
Yep.
Daryl Green,
Yeah,
some of
okay.
the top cornerbacks of that
What's
era,
it
I got
like
to play
playing
against.
against those guys?
They were amazing,
Yeah,
especially Dion, because Dion was so gifted in so many different ways. And when you're lining up against him, you're thinking like, Dion is one of the best corners in the NFL. But one
yeah,
thing you learn, as you know, is preparation.
yeah,
Every player has a weakness. Everyone has a tendency, and that was the value of film study because
yeah,
you kind of knew how to beat guys
yeah,
here and there. But the thing about Dion was when you beat him, you think you're open, and then he recovers every single time because he was so fast.
yeah. What tendencies did you see that he may have given away?
Dion's thing was he did not like getting beat deep outside. So he was
Okay.
very protective of the outside, like near the sideline.
Yeah,
So if you ever wanted to run an inside route, all you had to do was start him outside. You had to make him think you were running a go and you come underneath. And it was
yeah,
like 100% of the time. But again, I can remember one time when I beat him really bad and I came inside and I was wide open. Somehow he recovered, and before I could catch the ball, he knocked down. I mean, Dion was just a whole nother level
yeah,
athleticism.
yeah. Now, was he a big hitter too, or no?
Yeah, he was. I mean, when we played, Dion was he was a hitter. You
Yeah,
couldn't just think that you were going to run by him or a running back was just going to run by him and he wasn't going to attack you. No, no. He would definitely hit you. And he was a lot bigger than you realize. He's like
yeah.
6'2". He's about 225.
Good
run-
size.
Running a 4.2. I mean, he
You're
had the
moving.
speed, the weight, the strength. He
Yeah,
had it all.
yeah. And he had the attitude,
Yes, he had the
the
confidence
swagger,
and
the swagger.
and you know what? And Jeff, it was kind of part of that prime time
Yeah,
kind of persona
yeah.
because during the game he was like that, very talkative, but when the game was over, he was like one of the coolest guys out there.
I bet. Especially if you played really well against him and he knew it. I
Yeah.
bet you he's one of the guys that came up, put his arm around and said, "Man, great game."
Yeah, he did. I remember he told me one we were playing when I was in Dallas I was in Atlanta, and I remember him saying after the game, he goes, dude, he goes, you're the quickest. He called me a mouse. He said, you're the quickest mouse I've ever had to cover, you know? So I took that as a
That's a
compliment.
good compliment, right? Coming
Yeah.
from him, right? So let's go backwards again. Again, I'm going to bounce around. Let's go back to college. You're running track and you're playing football. Like, what did you learn from a discipline side of things, from, scheduling, time management, mental preparation? Like, what did you learn from all that?
You learn so much. You really do. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The first part was the scheduling. You had to be organized. You had to understand time management. You had to understand time blocking. And that really taught me how to be disciplined with my schedule, which is something that carried over life after the game. But both sports taught me so much. I mean, track was more individualized.
Yeah,
It was more you against the guys next to you. It was less team. So it really taught me how to be that competitor, but rely on myself, rely on my own
yeah,
abilities, rely on my own strengths, and not rely on any other team members. Where football was different. You were part of a team. And your responsibility was to do your job to the best of your ability on every play because that's what made the team stronger.
yeah,
So I believe, though, track really helped me as a wide receiver because a lot of times you're going against DBs and it's man to man, it's a mano a mano,
yeah,
it's you against him. And I think the track, kind of that background, really gave me that mental toughness to be able
yeah.
to face those one on one challenges.
I mean, I still don't know how you balance both. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was, you know what? Full transparency, my wife will tell you we
She
were
helped you
dating.
through it,
We were dating in college. I
right?
would not officially call her my girlfriend because, like you just said, I was so busy, I was
Yeah,
so committed that I just didn't have the time to commit to a girlfriend
yeah,
because I know what that requires, you know. And she teases me to this day. But like you said, your busy schedule,
yeah,
academics, you got to
yeah,
stay eligible, you got to keep your grades up, and then of
yeah,
course the responsibilities in two sports.
yeah. Well, so what were some of the like challenges you faced as an athlete? Was there heavy mental challenges, injuries, obstacles? Like, what was it like for those 5 years, facing all that?
I think for me, it was really dealing with being labeled as an underdog. Everyone saw
Okay.
me as an underdog. Even the coaches saw me that way, even my teammates. And I knew this. I never saw myself as an underdog. I didn't really believe I was an underdog, but I was going to use it to my advantage, because as you know, underdogs have a stealth-like opportunity to win because people don't see them coming. And
No.
so while people were concerned with my size, I was behind the scenes putting in the
Yeah.
reps, studying, the plays and the films constantly, getting the mental reps so that when I got my opportunity, I was going to shine. And even
Yeah.
though I was five in the NFL, I was 5'9", 5'10", 157 pounds. I never let that size kind of be my handicap. If I had to
Yeah.
go hit Ronnie Lott, who's 240, I'm going to go hit him. If I had to go hit
Oh,
Junior Seau, I'll go hit him. Now, I might not do much damage there,
yeah.
but the
You might
coaches and the
bounce off.
yeah, I did literally. But the coaches and the teammates, they knew they could depend on me and that my size was
Yeah.
never going to be a liability.
Now, you just mentioned two of the greatest defensive players to probably ever put a uniform on, right?
Yeah.
What was it like getting hit by them? I mean, Ronnie Lott, he cut his finger off to keep playing,
Yeah.
like, and I've seen some of the hits he's made. I'm like, how do people get up? How does he get up from that? Did he ever lay a hard hit on you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he got me a couple times, but you never let them know that they hurt you.
Yeah.
He hits you, he gets that pop coming over the middle and you
Yeah.
just like bounce up and shake it off, but you get to the
Yep.
huddle and you're hurting. But I used to get him back. Every time I could cut him, I would back then we could take out safety's
Yeah.
legs and I would go
Yeah.
low and he hated me for that. But I told him, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna stand up and hit you up high if I don't
Yeah.
have to. But
That'd be
again, it
crazy.
was the mental part of the game was that it didn't matter who they were and how big they
Yeah.
were. You had to bring your A game no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. Now, did you any major injuries in college?
College, I sprained my ankle my senior year, pretty bad. I missed about 5 games, and
Oh,
then my junior year, I broke my arm. So to be honest, I didn't have a very impressive college career as a football player. I mean, I caught 3 passes my freshman year, 3 passes my sophomore year, 20 passes my junior year, 19 my senior year. I only had one touchdown my whole career in college,
wow.
so that's not your typical,
No.
NFL prospect stats. So
Right.
the NFL was something that was really never on my radar.
How did that happen then? How did you get on their radar? How did they find you? And like you just threw the stats out, that wasn't not a lot. How
Yeah.
did you end up in the NFL?
I was a mystery track guy. As one scout told me that you were the mystery track guy who could catch the ball. And I
You had
got
great
invited
hand.
to this NFL combine, which at the time, Jeff, I had no idea what the combine was.
Yeah.
But you're going to test me? I can test well, and I test pretty well to at least get my foot in the door,
Yeah.
so but that's what it was. Because there's a lot of track athletes out there and some have good hands and a lot of times some don't. But
Right.
that wasn't me because I was always a wide receiver my whole life. I never played
Yeah.
any other position but wide receiver.
Yeah. Now, were you in the era of Ronaldo, Nehemiah?
I was right after Ronaldo, but I was definitely one of his biggest fans, as a
Okay.
hurdler, because I ran the hurdles too. But when he went to San Francisco, I closely watched his career. I was excited to see him do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
big fan of Ronaldo Nehemiah.
So did that give you some of the inspiration to make that happen?
It did. Once I saw that they were looking at track guys to be able to make that jump, I knew that there were if I got the opportunity, there was going to be a chance.
Yeah.
The difference between Ronaldo and I don't know how much football experience he had prior to that. I had a lot of football experience. So
I
catching
don't
the
think he had
ball,
any. I think he had
yeah,
none.
I know. And so for me, I had an advantage. I mean, catching the
Yeah.
ball, that was second nature for me.
Right. So what's the jump like from college to NFL? Is it a major difference? Is it just speed? Is it discipline? Like, what's the difference?
It's a it's a major difference. It really is. And the biggest two I would say um separators are the speed of the game, like you said. The game at that level is so much faster. It
Yeah.
really is. As a wide receiver in college and high school, when I catch a pass, I'm usually wide open. In the NFL, you're battling with the DB on every single throw. So the speed of the game. And the other thing was when you first get there, every player has that wake up call, and you see that guy was an All American, that guy was all this, he was all that. Everybody's a great athlete.
Yeah.
Everyone has talent. And
Yeah.
so I realized quickly that when talent meets talent, talent's not enough. And it was the guys that were willing to take it to the next level in their work ethic, in their preparation. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of mentality I took when I got there.
Yeah. Now, did your work ethic change? Did your prep change when you got to the NFL, or was it you brought the same prep and determination with you?
I'd say I brought the same work ethic and determination, but where I was focusing my attention as an athlete was different.
Yeah.
I didn't spend much time working on releases in college. I didn't spend much time working on blocking. I didn't really spend much time in college studying defenses and so forth. But I would say the preparation was different.
Yeah.
The intensity on every single play was different.
Yeah.
So where high school and college, you can kind of take some plays off. Can't do that in the NFL.
No.
Every day is game day. Every
Yeah.
play, you better bring your best, because if you don't, there's always a guy waiting for you to take your job.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my
There's a lot of
God.
pressure there.
Oh yeah. So did anybody notice any tendencies from you that you gave away when they were watching you on film?
Yeah, actually, they did. It was my 6th year in the NFL. The other wide receivers picked it up. They said, JJ, every time we're running a pass play, you take your gloves and you do this. And they said, every time it's a run, you keep your hands down. And I didn't
Mm,
realize it, Jeff, until I started watching myself on film. And I was like, those guys are right. I would just
yeah.
naturally, I just do this, dry my gloves. And so I
Yeah.
had to consciously think about not doing that from that point on. But like I said before, I don't care how great an athlete is at the NFL level. Everybody has a tendency. And if
Yeah.
you can find that tendency and take advantage of it, that's the difference between winning and losing on every play.
And it's so funny to say that. I just interviewed a young man. You know the name Jason Kimbinda?
Why does that name sound
He
familiar?
just retired. He's a young guy. He's 29, Penn
Okay.
State and linebacker for and running and a full. Converted he played linebacker for the Raiders. Then he went to Detroit. Was a fullback there.
Wow.
But I asked him about tendencies. He said he used to notice wide receivers when the play was called to them when they were the primary target, they'd spit on their gloves.
Yeah.
And he's like, and when they weren't the primary target, they didn't spit on their gloves and just almost like kind of what you just said about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting when you have those habits and you don't realize it till someone
Yeah,
points it out. What I always try to do when I'm watching game film, I would always look at the wide receivers and see if I could tell it was run or pass.
yeah,
Because a lot of wide receivers will change their stance when it's a pass versus when it's a run. So I would consciously think of that. How can I make my stand look the
the
same
same.
every single time so
Is that
I'm not
hard to do?
giving these clues away?
Is it hard to do?
Yeah, I mean, I had to. It's something I had to think about. I had to work on, and then eventually it became a habit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So who were some of your role models or guys that were influential for you when you came into the league?
I think every team I had different mentors.
Yeah.
When I went to the Browns, it was Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, Brian Brennan, Gerald McNeil, Ozzie Newsome.
Mm,
And I was always a sponge. What they
yeah.
say, success leaves clues. So I was always asking these guys for tips. And then when I got to Dallas, Michael Irving was hurt the year I was there. So I didn't really have that mentor that I was hoping to have. In Kansas City, it was Stephon Page. And then when I got to Atlanta, I was the old guy. So I was the one that was mentoring all these younger wide receivers.
The old guy. How old were you then? 29, 30?
I
The
was
old
probably,
guy,
yeah, 29, 30. Yeah.
right? The old guy. So I know I said this before we went on the air, but I was going to ask you. You've had some really good quarterbacks. Like who was the funnest to play with? Who was the most difficult to play with? But who was like the put it on the money every time?
Well, I would say first, the most enjoyable to play with was probably Steve DeBerg. He was just a
Okay.
prankster. I mean, DeBerg was just that old journeyman, but he was just a lot of
He was around
fun.
forever.
Oh, he was. He
Yeah.
was. And I'd probably say Jeff George probably had the best arm I ever witnessed. His arm was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Joe Montana, he's my favorite. He takes the cake. When you get to play with one of the greatest to ever play the
Yeah.
game, that certainly is a privilege. And I learned a lot just watching Joe, and you could clearly see why he was one of the best.
Was he
And
always that cool and
yeah,
calm?
cool Joe. Oh yeah. Cool,
Yeah.
calm, collective. You're a minute left in the game and you're driving down the field to score. And Joe was just so relaxed. But you could tell that here's a guy that's been there, done that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so his confidence and his experience always kind of, made us relax as well too. But now Joe was great. I just love how when he joined us in KC, he had already won 4 Super Bowls,
Yeah.
14 years in the league. But Joe didn't rest on his laurels. I always like to say he came in, he studied like a rookie, he prepared like a vet, and he led like a pro. And his leadership just took us to the AFC Championship game right away.
Yeah. Okay. How about Troy?
Now, Troy, it was Troy's first year when I was there.
All right.
So he was very quiet. I didn't really get to know him as well. He was very quiet. We were 1-15 that year. It was a transition year between Tom Landry's
Yeah.
guys and Jimmy Johnson's guys as well. So I was only there one year, by the way. I was not on the Super Bowl teams. I was
Oh, I
there
thought
one
you
year.
were.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
only there in 89. But the team was so bad, I thought there's no way these guys are going to win a Super Bowl. So I went to Kansas City. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this is great. And then Dallas goes on to win 3 Super Bowls. I was like, man, I didn't see that coming.
So what was free agent? So did you leave on a free agency or were you traded?
I left. I was a free agent. I was a
Okay.
free agent because my first year with the Browns, I tore my ACL ligament in rookie
Oh,
camp. So my track career ended quicker than I thought because I was getting ready for nationals. I qualified for 1988 Olympic trials in the long jump, and then I get drafted. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't want to play in the NFL, but let me just go to their rookie camp, check it out, and come back. And I tore up my ACL ligament my rookie year. So that kind of began the journey of the NFL. It
yeah.
was, like I said, it wasn't by choice, but later on I realized that, okay, this is something I can do. Let me focus on that. So
Yeah.
when I got cut by Cleveland in 89, then Dallas picked me up. I was a free agent. So I didn't have much leverage, So when that season was over, I thought I got to choose the right team for me that's really going to give me a shot. And I chose
Yeah.
KC because one, they didn't have any guys running under 4.5, and I was running a 4.33. And Marty Schottenheimer was the head coach, and he had drafted me in Cleveland. So I thought he's probably going to give me more of a fair opportunity.
Yeah. Now, 4-3-3 in today's world is still smoking fast. But back then, you were like lightning.
Yeah,
That
there
like
was
nobody was running that fast, right?
Yeah, it's like you knew the guys that were running that fast. You,
Yeah.
you knew all the guys that were 4.3 and
Yeah.
below. But that was, I like to say that was one of my competitive advantages and taking that and matching it with my quickness. I
Yeah.
had really good quickness and spent a lot of time studying DBs and working on bump and run man to man. And I got very good at beating man to man press technique. And I think that's one of the reasons why I played so long.
Yeah. So, of the few teams you were on, which locker rooms you enjoy the most?
Chiefs. Chiefs, yeah. The
That was
five
quick.
years I was there, we were winning. We had that culture of winning, and everybody
Yeah.
was just, we just had a great team, and you love being there, and you love playing for everyone and playing for your teammates, and that environment was just so inviting. The
Yeah.
environment in Atlanta was different. We went 10-6, and then we went 3-13.
Mm.
My first year in Dallas, when we were 1-15, it was the locker room wasn't very good,
No.
So,
No.
but yeah, KC years were good.
All right. So, how about mental challenges? The NFL, man, it's like you're here today, gone tomorrow. You lasted 9 years. Talk about what type of mental strength you have to have, JJ, just to survive, let alone play in that league.
Yeah, the mental part is really the biggest component because everybody's a great athlete. Everyone has the skills. Everybody's hungry, but it's really the guys that can handle the pressure because
Yeah.
you're constantly under pressure.
Yeah.
You're being evaluated every single day, and it's the guys that could really push through the pressure. And so your mental toughness was tested all the time. It was tested on every play, it was tested on every day. And so I always had the ability, what I call one snap and clear. It was like focus on that one play, bring your best. When the whistle blows, focus on the next play.
Clear
You
your
know,
mind.
and it was the same
Yeah.
thing for every day I walked into my office. I walked into the training facility. It was like, how can I be better than I was the day before? You know, so I was always challenging myself mentally because Jeff, 5'10", 157 pounds, you know, I started I think 5 years, but they were always trying to replace me with a taller
Yeah.
receiver. But that was kind of my edge because it made me work harder. It made me prepare more. It made me really put myself in a position to win every single day.
So how did you handle being like one of the shorter guys out there, and you think about the like you said, the pressure, right? Like, you can't force yourself to grow. You can work on your hands, you can work on your foot speed, you can gain some bulk weight, but you cannot grow any taller. So how did the coaches look at that with you?
Yeah, I call I call it a mindset shift. I had to make a mindset shift because, like you said, I couldn't get any bigger.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to get any taller. I couldn't control that, but I could control my mindset. I could control my preparation. I could control my effort. And I kind of made that pact with myself is that I'm going to out prepare everyone. I'm going to
yeah,
outwork everyone. You know, so that mindset shift really helped me because I just focused on what I can control.
yeah,
And every day I made sure I showed up. I knew what to do. I gave it 100%. And the coaches could depend on me. You know, but
yeah,
I knew all four wide receiver positions, and I was that
yeah.
guy that coaches could depend on me. They knew I was going to do my assignment, and I would always perform at my best.
So when did you allow your girlfriend at the time to go out on a date with you?
Well, let's see. How did that go? Well, when I was drafted by the Browns and I moved to Cleveland, I kind of thought, okay, we're probably done. I'm going to move to Cleveland, start a new life, you
Yeah,
know, and so I just, I'm not going to call her. Well, that lasted about a week. And a week later, I called her, and that's kind of when our relationship really started to grow. You know, that saying of distance makes the heart grow fonder, that was
yeah.
very, very true. And our relationship kind of took off from there. And, you know, here we are 35
And the
years
rest is
later.
history,
Yeah.
right? Right. So how about burnout when you're in the NFL? Did you experience anything there? Like, hey, I'm just like worn out here. I'm running out of gas.
No, you couldn't afford to. You just couldn't afford to. No matter how tired you were, no matter how injured you were. And like you mentioned before we started talking on air, the practices, how sore you were, you had to
Yeah,
show up. You had to bring your best.
yeah,
And anyone who took a day off or took a play off, you're jeopardizing your job. Your
yeah,
job is to show up, bring your best. And remember, this is a job. This is how I took care of my family, paid my
yeah,
bills, you
yeah,
know. So my why, my reason for doing it was very, very strong to take care of my family. But also too, Jeff, I was born in Northeast Portland, Oregon. I was raised in the hood, single parent mom. She dropped out of high school her junior year. We struggled growing up. She was a hard worker, but I made the decision early that I was going to change my story. And so that was that purpose, that why that really pushed me through any challenging moments during that journey.
yeah. And there's always a why, right?
Yeah.
There's always a why that keeps pushing you. Well, let me ask you this one. Everybody's comes to an end, except for Philip Rivers.
Yeah.
Now he's back in action, which I thought was so cool.
I
You know,
know.
um, what was it like? When did you find out? Who told you, or was it your own choice where you say, okay, I'm done?
Well, I think I had an advantage, as I mentioned earlier. I never expected to play in the NFL. I wasn't that kid who grew up saying, I want to play in the NFL. It just kind of happened. And when I made it, I thought, let's see if we can become a vested player, qualify for retirement, play 4 years. Then it was like, let me see if I can play 5 years. Let me see if I can play 6 years. By the time I got to my ninth year, I'd hurt my knee at the end of the season. And when I went through rehab, and then when I was 100%, I thought, you know what, JJ, you weren't even supposed to be in the NFL. You played 9 years.
A
You're
long time.
relatively healthy. Let's call it a career. And I
Yeah.
just walked away. I remember telling my agent because some teams were calling. I told my agent, I said, I'm done. I don't want to play again. I don't want to know who's calling because I was ready for life after the game. I wanted to
Yeah.
transition into something else.
Okay. So what? So game's over. Hang the helmet up. What happened next?
Well, a couple things. I was always preparing for life after the game early on, and I networked with a lot of different business people. I remember I networked with some doctors in Kansas City, and once my career was over, I became owner of a medical company called Summit Medical in Kansas City. It was a durable medical equipment company. We had physical therapy clinics too, so I was managing those businesses. And while I was doing that, I was doing some coaching too to see if I wanted to go that route.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of options. There were some other things I did too. I had options, and that was kind of my goal was
Yeah.
I wanted to have some choices so that when my career was over, I could decide what I wanted to do. And one thing that was really important to me, Jeff, is I wanted to be in careers where I could help other people.
Yeah.
How can I help other people achieve the goals that are important to them?
So what inspired Team X88?
Yeah, Team X88 was the name of the company we came up with, and it's kind of like the parent company for the businesses that I'm involved in. I'm a professional speaker. It's all about helping people. That's really what
Yeah.
you do. You're helping people. Obviously, I do more business professionals. And then I've been part of a health and wellness company called Isogenics, where
Yeah.
nutrition is really big for me because I'm trying to still stay fit and stay healthy. And I thought, hey, here's something that I could use to help other people achieve their health goals. So those were the two businesses I do now. Because one thing I did learn, Steve, or Jeff, when I first retired was this: I had my hand in too many pots.
Yeah.
I was a little overwhelmed. I was doing all these different businesses, and I wasn't able really to focus on one, which is
Right.
a learning lesson for me. But moving forward, now I just have my speaking business. I run it, and then my other business as well.
So after the game was over, I mean, you have your influential people during the game. Now, who was influential for you when the game was over?
Well, you know what? It wasn't one particular player. I was always looking for the veterans who were already doing business stuff.
Okay.
So I would just, find out which player is doing business, what are they doing outside of football, and there were quite a few of them. And I would just sit there and pick their brains. I would talk
Yeah.
to them about, just give me some business tips, give me some networking tips, and that was really kind of my education, so
Yeah.
to speak. And
Yeah.
because I was always impressed with players who not only were great players, but they were already preparing for life after the game.
Yeah. Good
And that was
businessmen.
what I wanted.
Yeah. You know, you see so many athletes, I don't care what sport, and those who are doing really well, and we can bring up some big names, so I'm not going to do that, who put their name on too many things, right? And because of that, they lost a lot of things.
Yeah.
What were some of the, I don't say lack of better words, but like the teasers that you saw, hey, that might be pretty cool, but you chose not to do it and you're glad you didn't do it. Anything pop up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I fell victim to a couple of businesses I got involved in. And what I learned from that whole process was, if you're going to get involved in a business, get involved in the business you're passionate about. Get involved in the business that you're going to be there from the day to day and really understand it. That was kind of a mistake I made initially. And it's one of the advices I give athletes today. But yeah, there are quite a few out there. But I was smart enough not to do anything ridiculous. I
Yeah.
understood what was risky and what wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think I made a mistake initially by spreading myself too thin. And if I had to do it over again, I would probably just be a professional speaker. I really wish I had gravitated to that right when my career was over, because that would have been like the perfect profession for me, which obviously I love now.
I can just hear it in your voice, just the way that you speak about you must be awesome on a stage.
A lot of work, just like NFL, putting
Yeah.
in the reps, preparing, and just trying to bring my best. I'm still learning, but I love it because when I found out that in the last 35 years, there's not been an NFL player who played longer than me that weighed under 160 pounds.
Really?
I knew I had something unique. I knew I had put me in a very unique category. And I thought, here's an opportunity to create a message that can help so many people. People
Oh
that
yeah.
maybe they're in situations where people didn't believe in them. Maybe they were the underdog. Maybe they didn't get a chance. Maybe they dealt with challenge or obstacles, and that was my life. But also, I developed the habit of conquering those. And I thought, man, I could pour such value into my audiences. And so that's why I love what I do now because I get to speak from experience. I'm not
Yeah.
speaking from theory. I was
No.
there. I was in
Right.
the trenches every single day. So these lessons that I teach are real lessons that I utilize, and I'm giving action steps to my
Yeah.
audience.
So this is a crazy question. And you were again one of the smaller guys in the NFL. Now the receivers today are like giants, you know? I mean, what advice can you give to the taller guys, the bigger guys that are out there that are trying to make the league? You know, and how do they take that from you? Do they look at you as like, hey, this guy made it 9 years in the league, but I bet he's a short guy? Or do they
Yeah.
say, hey man, he made it 9 years in the league, even though he was a short guy?
Yeah. It's a combination of both.
Okay.
Some will listen
Right.
and some won't because they just think they got it all figured out.
Yeah.
But the number one tip I give wide receivers, especially in big ones or small ones, I say spend time learning how to beat man to man consistently. You know, when that guy's in your face and it's bump and run, and he's a yard off. I said, you have to be consistent there because that determines whether the receiver makes it or not.
Yeah.
As you know, zone coverage is not played every single down. It's going to be
Right.
man to man.
So how
And
do you
if,
beat the guy man to man? What do you
oh,
tell him?
it's, you know what I did? This is what I did. So I spent time studying the wide receivers my first year and I took notes and all these top receivers and I took notes on what they were doing. And then Jeff, I started naming my wide receivers. I'm not my releases. I named my releases. I had about 20 different releases. So I practiced these over and over. So when I was looking at a DB and depending on the route, I knew what release I was going to use right away. My preparation was really impressive because I spent a
Right.
lot of time before the game working on
Yeah.
this. So, like you asked me earlier, I knew that if I'm going against Dion, I know I'm going to give him a slant release. I'm going to give the double move release. I'm getting inside. So it was the preparation. And that's
Yeah.
where I think some guys today don't really invest that kind of time. I mean, I would
Yeah.
sit at home in front of the mirror working on these releases. I would
Yeah.
have my wife stand in front of me, have a body there, and I'm working on my releases. I would put in all the reps that were necessary so that when I signed with the Chiefs that year, nobody could get their hands on me. And if you could run a 4-3 and you have the quickness and you have the strategy, then it puts you in a whole different class.
And the quarterback's just got to put the ball in the money.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it because a quarterback will look at me and they know if it's press man to man and he audibles a fade, he audibles a slant, he knows I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to give that confidence to your quarterback. And that
Yeah.
happens in practice, you know? It
Yeah.
happens in putting in those reps.
Now, how about your vertical? Were you able to get up there?
Yeah, I had a 40-inch vertical.
Whew.
Yeah, I was a 26 2-foot long jumper, so jumping was kind of one of my talents.
So that must have shocked a lot of people.
It did, it really did, because you'd see me go up for some passes,
Yeah.
and DBs were pretty surprised how high I could jump.
All right. So here's two questions. University of Oregon, favorite moment, could be track or football. NFL favorite moment.
Let's see, Oregon favorite moment. Probably, I think my favorite moment was I was also a high hurdler, and I was pretty short for a high hurdler. But my favorite moment is probably my senior year when I won the 110 high hurdles at the Oregon Invitational, and I was running against some of the top guys in the nation. And I had a great race. I mean, it was a perfect race. I ran a 13.8 something, which was really good for me. So that was probably my highlight. In the NFL, it's definitely my first touchdown because I had a long journey to the NFL. The ACL tear, getting
Yeah.
cut by the Browns, picked up by the Cowboys. They didn't want to resign me. Then choosing the Chiefs. Chiefs cut me in camp. They brought me back 2 weeks later. I was activated and I scored a 33-yard touchdown. And then my career took off. So that was a very special moment because it was that moment when I realized that I made it. I finally
Yeah.
made it,
Yeah.
so definitely that one.
And those paychecks sure didn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was playing today,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
But that's what, playing back then, the older guys, older than you, said the same thing.
I know. I try to remind myself of that it's all relative. What we
Yeah.
made, like you said, the guys before us would have loved what we made. And of
Yeah.
course, I would love to make what the guys make
Yeah.
today.
And the money today is just getting out of hand.
It's ridiculous.
It's getting out of hand. But you know what? The only reason it's getting out of hand is because the fans are willing to pay. If
Yeah.
the fans stop paying, the owners would stop paying.
Yeah. Football. The NFL is the number one grossing sport in the
It's
world.
crazy.
Did 22
Yeah.
billion last year.
Yeah. So let me ask you this one. The rules have changed dramatically since you've played, especially for the quarterback, right? You can barely blow on them now and you get a flag.
Right.
What do you think it would have been like when you were playing? I know the rules started to change around when you were playing, not like when you watched Terry Bradshaw days, he was getting hammered.
Yeah.
But then, the rules changed a little bit. They let a guy like Dan Marino throw the ball all over the place. But what do you think it would be like if you had the same type of rules today that the quarterbacks get?
Well, there's two things I love about the rules today that would have really helped me. One is the contact DBs and wide receivers. DBs can't be as physical as they were when I played. We were fighting DBs all the way down the field. Now, I mean, those refs are calling those holding plays. They're
Yeah,
calling them a lot more. So that part I would have loved because I was 157 pounds. The other thing I love about today's game is the offensive schemes have really opened up. We
yeah,
never ran empty formation where you have
yeah,
five guys on the line and the quarterback's in a shotgun. I mean, you can dictate the coverage easily.
yeah,
Because back when I played, offensive coordinators were always trying to match me up. They were trying to move me around because they knew one on one I could beat my guy. So being in an empty coverage, you could dictate who's going to cover you. You knew when it was going to be man in the zone. So I think I would have caught more passes. Oh, and the third rule I love is that guys like Ronnie Lott and Steve Atwater, who used to take our head off, they
Oh, you
can't do
can't
that
do that anymore.
anymore. You had to, literally, when you're running in route back when I played, you had to keep your head on a swivel because
Yeah.
you knew they were around there and they were
Oh,
going for
yeah.
your head.
Yeah. I mean, what's it like going over the middle of the NFL? I mean, like you might get killed.
Yeah, you will. And it was one of those things where I made up my mind. If I want to play at the NFL level, you got to go over the middle, and you got to act like you like it.
Yeah.
Because there are guys who were timid going over the middle, or they have
Yeah.
the alligator
Yeah.
arms,
Yeah.
and those were the guys who didn't make the team. So during my career, never was I labeled that JJ won't go in the middle. I mean, they labeled me as just a little pit bull. I was, like I said, I'd go over the middle, I'd take the hit, I'd bounce up. Oh, you want me to go chop block or hit you want me to go crack back on Junior Sale? I would
Yeah.
go do it, because I understood this. In order for me to keep my job, you got to do your job at the
Yeah.
best of your ability.
Yeah. So I mentioned before locker rooms, right? And you said the Chiefs locker room best. How about, connections, friends? If you go, are you tighter to your NFL buddies, your college buddies, a little bit of both? Like, where do you find a better connection?
I think a little bit of both. I think social media has really facilitated that because now you can find out where guys are, you can stay in touch with them, you can see what's going on in their life. So, yeah, I've stayed in contact with, I think even in high school at all the different levels, I've
Yeah.
stayed in contact with a lot of my teammates because there is that bond. 2 weeks ago, I went to the Chiefs Alumni Weekend, Legends Weekend, and there's like about 50 former Chiefs there. And you just feel like you're at home. You're around your
Yeah.
family. These are the guys you're in the trenches with every single day. So even though you don't see them all the time, when you
Yeah.
do, you just feel like you pick up right where you left off.
Yeah. I mean, you can't explain it. And the question I ask a lot of guys is, let's just put you back on the field. It doesn't matter what team, at what league. You're out there, you're in the zone. Can you explain how that feels? Just how it feels.
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. It's hard to describe unless you've been out there
Right.
because one, you're in this environment where there's 80,000 people that are cheering for you. Um, and you're making decisions, split second decisions,
Yeah.
and you have to almost be perfect.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly in this frame of mind of thinking and thinking and processing information because you don't really have time to think about anything else.
No.
But you're having to really bring your best on every single play. And it's the thing I tell people, because people have asked me, what was the hardest part? The hardest part was the pressure. You're under
Yeah.
constant pressure. There's no room for error. You have to be
Yeah.
at your best every single
There's no
day,
time off.
yeah, there's no time off at all. And I think
Yeah.
that was the part where I didn't like, but I learned to deal with it. I learned to
Yeah.
adapt. I learned to really kind of play through the pressure. And I think that's really helped me today. And it's one of the things I share with business professionals on how to deal with that pressure because
Yeah.
that's something even professionals deal with.
How about, the word discipline, right? Discipline to many people is a negative word, but I guarantee to you it's not. So talk about discipline from the college level, professional level, but now entrepreneurial level. There's multiple leaps. Can you talk about that progression in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, for whatever reason, I've always been a disciplined person, even as a student in grade school, high school, college, and so forth. The one thing I learned about discipline was that I felt discipline was the master key to success.
Right.
Because discipline is about doing the things you got to do when nobody's watching. And I know that discipline drives everything. You can
Yeah.
be inspired, you can be motivated, but that wears off at some point. Discipline shows up when you don't feel like it. And so for me, I developed the habit of showing discipline as a student, as an athlete, as a
Yeah.
husband, as a father. It's part of my personality. So one of the things I try to encourage people to do, if you want to develop discipline, I say one, you got to have a strong why. Why are you
Yeah.
doing what you're doing? Because if you got a strong why, discipline's going to be there no matter what. The second thing I say is you want to get in the habit of fulfilling your promises, meaning that when you make a
Mm.
promise to do something, every time you do it, you're starting to develop discipline.
Yeah.
And that turns into trust, which turns into confidence, which turns into
Yeah.
commitment. And all of a sudden, you're being disciplined in everything that you do. And so, those are some of the things that I've done. But more importantly, that's what I teach others how
Yeah.
to how to develop that quality.
Right. Now, are you speaking more to sports programs, corporate programs, educational programs, or all the above?
I'm now speaking strictly to business professionals. I like corporate, I like the
Yeah.
business world. When I first started, I was speaking to everybody,
Yeah.
schools, athletes, communities. But I just felt my niche. The last 6 years, I really honed that niche. I love speaking to business professionals because most of them want what we were able to do in the NFL. What is it like to perform at the highest level and
Yeah.
stay at the highest level?
Yeah.
What is it like to push through change and challenges and because that's what we did every single day in the NFL. So I just feel that I've enjoyed speaking to business professionals. So that's mostly where I stay.
Yeah. What's it like to be the best of the best?
Yeah, and that's what I tell them. I say, I was once the best in the world at my job.
Yeah.
There's 1,696 men on an active NFL roster every week. There's 64 starting wide receivers. I said, but here's the deal. Here's the deal. Nobody's going to give it to you. Doesn't matter who you know, what you've done in the past, your family you've been born into. No, you make it because you earn it and you stay there because you continue to earn it. And that's
Yeah.
where I try to take them. It's not just about making it to the top. It's about staying at the top.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, the
Yeah.
average NFL career is less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, because some guys who are great in college, great in high school, then they get to the NFL and they're not used to not being the guy. And they
Yeah.
have to earn their position. They got to earn their reps.
Yeah.
And when they're sitting on the side and they're counting, there's seven wide receivers and they're only keeping five. I see guys would just mentally shut down.
Yeah.
For some like me, I was like, man, I've been the underdog my whole life. I'm used to this. It was
Yeah.
familiar territory to me. So again, though, that's where the discipline came in
Yeah.
and the right
But
mindset too.
but I think you set the expectation for yourself. Like, hey, if their seven wide receivers are keeping five, your mindset was, hey, I'm one of those five.
Yeah, yeah, and
It's
also
expected.
too, I something I call how do you close the underdog gap? So they saw me as an underdog.
Mm.
It's like how do you close that gap? Well, there were things that I did that help them stop looking at me as the underdog and seeing me more as an asset. This guy can help us
Yeah.
win. So it was a process, it was a process in the preparation and knowing your
Yeah.
assignments and being consistent and beating man to man. It was all those things that I did.
Yeah. So how did you handle, you mentioned before you got cut a couple of times. How did you handle that mentally? Like so when the team says we don't need you anymore, like how do you go home at night, look yourself in the mirror and say, I got to get up tomorrow and make something happen?
Yeah, that was the reality. That was a wake up call. Like you said, when they basically say you're not good enough, they literally fire you. You're being
Yeah.
fired.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one is I got a taste of the NFL. I saw the talent. So as I measured the talent, I knew I had the physical abilities. It was about getting in the right situation. So when I got cut by the Browns and I got rejected by the Cowboys who didn't want to sign me back, all I wanted to do was get 100% healthy and get on the right team. And
Yeah.
and that's what kind of kept pushing through those challenging moments, pushing through those obstacles because I already knew I could play. It was just a matter of getting in the right situation.
So what do they say to you when they cut you? Is it like a nice conversation or are they like, get out, see you later? How does that
it's
go?
it's first bring your playbook. That's the code. So you're somebody's getting cut. Let's bring your playbook and they give you that speech of, oh, you had a great camp and I know someone's gonna pick you up. They always say that,
Yeah.
but we're gonna release you now. So if you can get on another team and it's not the most exciting conversation to
Yeah.
have. Trust me on that. And then what's even more humiliating when they cut you, they have to officially send you a document. So you get this document mailed to you that says, why were you cut? It was, what did it say? Inability to perform the duties expected of him.
Oh my
That's
God.
what it said. I was like,
That's probably
what?
just a boilerplate thing they put on there,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But then you
yeah.
got to go to the locker room and clean your crap out.
Oh, you're cleaning your life. And everybody knows too. They know. And that's why my last, what was it, 7 years, it was nice not having to experience that.
Yeah.
Going from the guy who's trying to make the team and you make the team and you're just trying to hold your spot, then becoming a starter, where they would say your job is just to get ready for the first game of the season. So
Yeah.
but I never took that for granted. I never
Yeah.
took time off. The way I prepared, the way I performed when I was trying to make it in the NFL was the
Yeah.
same when I actually made it.
Is there any one guy, JJ, in your career that you're like, how did this guy get cut? Anybody that stands out like this, there's no way this guy should ever been cut.
Stephon Page for the Kansas City Chiefs. He could not believe I got cut. I mean, like I told you, I came in mini camp. We were timed for 40s. We were in a 4-3-3. I was taking everybody deep. I mean, I was really performing well. And you're thinking, there's no way I'm getting cut. And I remember when I got cut, head coach Marty Schottenheimer said, you outperform the guy we drafted, but the guy we drafted has to make the team.
Mm,
So he made the team. I was cut, but Marty said, I'm going to try to get you on this team. So just hang tight. And they signed me 2 weeks later when they cut a veteran. But that was part of the business side of the NFL. And one
yeah.
thing I always remember was that, and my agent told me this, he says, every game in the preseason, you're auditioning for 31 other
Yeah.
teams. So if they cut you, don't panic because all the other teams are going to see you on film. So I always try my best to make
Yeah.
sure in the preseason I look good on film.
You know? Now, how about the flip side? Were there any guys that you saw that you're like, how does this guy make this team? There's no way he belongs here. Like, what's he doing here?
No, there wasn't. I mean, all the guys that make it, they can play at the NFL level.
Yeah.
When you have not, well, it was when I actually when I played, they could bring in an unlimited amount of number of players to camp. And there
Yeah.
were guys that, okay, who is this guy? I mean, I remember there was a guy that could run a 4-1 and he couldn't catch the ball. So
Yeah.
there were guys like that. But when they shrunk it down to 80 players and you're bringing in 10 wide receivers, every one of those wide receivers can play.
Yeah.
And you felt bad too because the guys that got cut, they were good enough to play.
Yeah.
But circumstances, for whatever reason, they were
Yeah.
cut. And that's why I always hoped that there was another successful league because there were so many guys who
Yeah.
could play, but weren't really getting a true opportunity to do
Yeah.
so.
What do you think of the leagues now? I mean, they never survive. They don't make a lot of money. These guys are putting their lives on the line for, 100 grand. Yeah, what do you think of all that?
I just don't understand why it's so difficult to get another league going because the players are out there. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the NFL has such a monopoly on, I don't know. I don't understand why. I always wish that there was because, like I said, for every guy that's cut, that guy can play in the league.
Yeah.
But you would see guys that weren't given fair shots for whatever reasons. They
Yeah.
weren't drafted. I saw guy free agents outperform draft choices and they would cut the free agent because they were
Yeah.
making the front office look bad. You saw these weird things happen and you just felt bad because, like I said, the guys that got cut, they can play at that
Yeah.
level.
Well, maybe they got to do what they did years ago. They make the NFL one league with,
Yeah.
and then you have the UFL, and then okay, play
Yeah.
each other. Maybe that'll
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. I mean, I know that was kind of one of the goals with
Yeah.
with some of these newer leagues, but they just haven't seemed to get it right.
I don't know. Well, a couple more questions. You got a young guy coming out of college football going into the NFL. What advice can you give him today?
Oh, the first thing I would probably tell them is, soon as you make it into the NFL, start planning for life after the game. Start
Mm,
preparing right away. Day one. And that's obviously networking. That's obviously getting connections and meeting different veteran players. Social media has really changed the game. You can
yeah.
really build a presence online and meet other people. That's the first thing I would say. Start planning for life after game right away. And the second thing I would say is, forget about high school, forget about college. You're playing against the best of the best. And you got to treat every day like it's game day
Yeah.
because they don't care who you are. You can get cut just like that. Never give them a reason to cut you. So,
Mm. All right. How about this one? You're a 9-year NFL veteran. Now it's time to transition into life. What advice can you give these guys?
ooh, good. Well, the first thing I would say is this is
You
what I
should have
would
been
do.
prepared the whole way through, right?
Yeah. Well, let's say they've already been prepared. The first thing I would say is that it's not about you anymore. Meaning that when I first retired, I kind of had this mentality I was still in the NFL. And I expected my wife and children's lives to revolve around my life, which
Mm.
which what it was like when I was playing, it had to
Yeah.
be. So when the game was over, I still had this mentality. And my wife told me, "Hey, it's not about you anymore. You don't play anymore. It's about the family." And I had to make that mindset shift and really focus on my family, pour into my family, pour into
Yeah.
my wife. And that was the first thing I did because to me, my marriage was very important. The divorce rate for professional athletes is really high, and I did not want to be part of that statistic.
Yeah.
So I would say embrace your family. If you're married, pour into your wife, focus on your children, and make them the priority. Because
Mm.
when you're in the game, you're the priority because that's what's required of you to play at that level.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome advice. And I can't imagine how many just professional athletes, forget the sport, who have a long career like yours, who come out and they expect everybody just to still follow what they need to do. Because like you said, what they need to do is over.
Yeah.
You're just a regular guy now.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. And I think the guys who treated the NFL like it was their job, understood that this is how I take care of my family, this is how I pay my bills. So
Yeah.
when the career was over, I think it was easy for them to make the transition. But the guys who felt they were bigger than the game, that had the
Yeah.
egos and
Yeah.
a little bit arrogance and stuff, those were the guys who struggled because football was their identity.
Yes.
So when their career's over, they think they're still in the NFL. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
see guys like this. I'm like, dude, you're not even in the NFL anymore. Why are you acting like that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like we're close to the same age, if not the same age. And I talk to the younger guys today and I bring up names. I'm like, you ever hear this guy? Like, who?
Yeah.
So we forget not that much time has to go by unless you're a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Not that much time has to go by before people forget about you.
Yeah.
They don't know who the hell you are from anything,
Right.
you know? And there's a lot of guys like that. That are great, good players
Yeah.
that they're like, who's that guy? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's
So,
why I've always encouraged guys to be kind to everyone.
yeah,
When you're playing, when you're after your career, just because you play in the NFL does not make you more special or better than anybody else.
no,
Treat everyone with kindness. And that's you see some guys that wouldn't do that, and it was really disappointing. But
yeah,
it's one of the things I always try to do. A lot of times when fans would meet me, they say, you're just like a regular guy. I go,
yeah,
I am a
yeah.
regular guy. I just
Yeah.
happen to play
Well,
this game.
it's funny you say that because every time I log into these to do these shows, right, whoever the guests are, I can tell within seconds whether, hey, this is going to be a good conversation or this is going to be a pulling teeth conversation.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you said hello, I'm like, this is going to go good, you know?
No, I
So,
appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. I just when someone reaches out to me and they want me to be on their podcast, I consider that an honor. It's a privilege. It gives me an opportunity to share with their listeners.
well, I appreciate you being on. So you have a legacy. You're still a young guy. You got a lot more stuff to do and accomplish, I'm sure, in your life that you want to do. But there's going to come a day where someone's going to look back and say, JJ, hmm, when they do, how do you want to be remembered when your name comes up?
I want to be remembered as one of the good guys, one of the guys that did it the right way. Whether it was marital wise, family wise, work ethic wise, NFL, business. Also, too, though, I want to be known as someone I was very positive. I've always been a very positive person. My mantra is stay positive. I've been saying that for my whole life. And I just want people to remember that, man, this guy was one of the good guys. He was a hard worker, he was reliable, he's dependable, and he's always positive because we need that positivity. There's a lot of negativity in the world. And
Yeah,
if we could spread some of that positivity and put a smile on someone's face, I think you're making an impact. So, yeah.
that's awesome. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
JJBirden.com. Go to my website. That's the hub. You can sign up for my newsletter. Between the lines, I'm all over social media. I'm very active. I love to share content to help others, but I also engage with people too. So yeah, that's the place to be.
Cool. So, JJ, we covered a lot of stuff. We talked about coming out of high school. We talked about college. We talked about track, football, NFL, your business. Is there anything we haven't hit or touched on you think we should cover before we wrap it up?
No, well, I'd probably say this. I wrote a book about 8 years ago called When Opportunity Knocks. Eight surefire ways to take advantage. This is my first book. And it's written for everyone. It's about seizing and maximizing opportunities. So it's on my website. I'm going to be starting book number 2 in the
Cool.
first quarter of next year called Beat the Coverage. It's going to be
Nice.
kind of a combination of a mini autobiography, but also more content about how to beat the coverage. That's my brand. That's my one of my keynotes because everybody deals with coverage. Coverage is can be anything between you and your objective or you and your goals. So I would say stay tuned for that book
That's a
early next
great
year.
title.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, Jeff? You'll like this. So I met with I hired a marketing company in April because I wanted to do a rebrand. I didn't really have a brand. Even as a
Yeah.
speaker, I didn't really have one. I said, I want to do a brand that represents me, that I could build my speaking platform around. And I was meeting with this company called To Market Media. And they asked me, so tell me what you used to do as a wide receiver. I said, well, my job was I'd get on the line, I'd look and see if it's man or zone, figure out the coverage, and my job was to find the hole and really maximize it. And the owner goes, so your job was to beat the coverage. And I go, yeah. He goes,
Boom.
that's your brand. And he's like, everybody faces coverage. And I was like, I love it. So
That is so cool.
that's the brand I launched because it relates to everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
coverage can be anything, because
Yeah.
as a wide receiver, coverage is what stood between me and scoring a touchdown. So for others, what's that obstacle? What's that challenge? What's the coverage that's stopping you from hitting your goals? And so that's a lot of my content now is revolving around how to beat that coverage.
That is awesome. That's a great title. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait for that to come out. That's cool. Well, JJ, listen, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate your time, your words of wisdom, and I can't wait for that book to come out. And I'm gonna order the other one first and read that. Then when that comes out, I'm gonna read it. Be great. Um, but thanks again. Your story is inspiring.
No, thank you, Jeff. Again, I appreciate you having me on, and just appreciate you sharing the positivity because it sounds like you're bringing on some really good guests that are pouring into your audiences. So, thank you, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's because of athletes and people and men like you is what makes this show, I think, attractive. But as I
Awesome.
always say, I wrap it up, I always say, stay strong.